In 2015, the most celebrated woman in Silicon Valley had a $9 billion company, a board full of legends, and a machine that was going to change medicine forever. The machine was called the Edison. It was a sleek black box that could supposedly run hundreds of medical tests on a single drop of blood from your fingertip. There was just one problem. The box didn't work. It had never worked. And the blood tests it was already running on real patients, hundreds of thousands of them, were coming back wrong. This is the story of Theranos and Elizabeth Holmes, the fraud that Silicon Valley built with its own two favorite words. Fake it. Explained as always, so simply a 5-year-old could follow along. Meet Elizabeth. 19 years old in 2003, a Stanford dropout with a big idea and an even bigger costume. She wore a black turtleneck every day on purpose because her hero wore one. She spoke in a deep baritone voice that former colleagues say was practiced. She named her company Theranos, Therapy Plus Diagnosis, and she told a story that was genuinely beautiful. Nobody should have to say goodbye too soon. Cheap, painless blood tests for everyone, from one drop, everywhere. Stop and notice something. Every fraud in this series sold a story people wanted to be true. Bernie sold safety, Dew sold a magic dollar, Trevor sold clean trucks, Elizabeth sold something even stronger. She sold hope, and she sold it wearing the costume of a genius. Here's the 5-year-old version of the science problem. Imagine promising to bake a full birthday cake with frosting and candles from a single crumb of flour. When real bakers tell you a crumb simply isn't enough flour for a cake, you don't change the promise. You build a special oven with a curtain around it, and when guests come over, you show them a beautiful cake. What they can't see is that behind the curtain, someone bought the cake at a regular bakery and is quietly sliding it out of a regular oven. That was Theranos. A tiny drop of blood genuinely doesn't contain enough of what a lab needs for hundreds of accurate tests, a limitation real scientists kept pointing out. So when the Edison couldn't deliver, Theranos ran most of its tests on ordinary machines bought from other companies, sometimes diluting the tiny samples to stretch them, which made results even less reliable. The magic box did almost none of the magic. The bakery did. And the demos? When investors visited, blood was drawn, the Edison whirred, and the guests were escorted to lunch. The machine sometimes wasn't running their sample at all. The result they saw later could come from the regular lab. The cake came from the bakery every time. So how did this fool everyone for 12 years? It didn't fool everyone. It fooled the right people, and it silenced the rest. Look at the board of directors. 2 former secretaries of state, former senators, a future secretary of defense, famous generals, titans of diplomacy and war. Count the scientists on that list. Essentially none. It was a board built for credibility, not oversight. Investors saw the names and skipped the questions. Sound familiar? The costume does the convincing. Meanwhile, inside the company, secrecy was a weapon. Teams were walled off from each other so nobody saw the whole picture. Employees who raised concerns were pushed out and reminded of aggressive legal agreements. When a young employee named Tyler, whose own grandfather sat on the board, said the machines were failing quality checks, the company's response was lawyers. His grandfather, a giant of American diplomacy, initially chose the company over his own grandson. And here's the number that should have stopped everything. For years, Theranos let almost no one publish independent data on the Edison. In science, that's the phone call. Peer review is how the world checks the piggy bank. Theranos simply never allowed it, and the money kept arriving anyway. $900 million of it, from famous families and even a media mogul who owned the very newspaper that would eventually bring the company down. Then Theranos did the one thing a fake cake can't survive. It opened a real bakery. In 2013, Theranos tests went live in Walgreens pharmacies. This is the moment the fraud changed species. Fooling rich investors cost money. Giving real patients wrong blood results costs lives. People made medical decisions on those numbers. Patients were told their results were fine when they weren't, and told they might be seriously ill when they were healthy. The company eventually voided or corrected nearly 1 million test results. The unraveling took 1 reporter and 2 brave kids. In 2015, John, an investigative reporter at the Wall Street Journal, got a tip and started calling. Tyler, the grandson, and a young lab worker named Erica became whistleblowers, risking careers and lawsuits. In October of 2015, the journal published the story, "The Edison Barely Worked," and Theranos was running tests on other companies' machines. Elizabeth's response was the full playbook we now know by heart: deny everything. She went on television the next day and said, "This is what happens when you work to change things. First they think you're crazy, then they fight you, and then all of a sudden, you change the world." Attack the questioners, lawyers, private investigators, pressure on sources. Sound louder than the evidence? It worked for Dew. It worked for Trevor. It did not work here because medicine has referees with real whistles. Regulators inspected the labs and found serious deficiencies. In 2016, they banned Elizabeth from running a lab at all. Walgreens pulled out. The valuation went from $9 billion to effectively zero. In 2018, the government charged Elizabeth and her deputy, who was also secretly her boyfriend, with fraud. The trial finally came in 2021, and the verdict in January of 2022 was precise in a way worth understanding: guilty of defrauding investors on 4 counts. Elizabeth was sentenced to over 11 years in federal prison. Her deputy got nearly 13. She reported to prison in 2023, her sentence since trimmed for good behavior, with release projected in the early 2030s. She was once the world's youngest self-made female billionaire. The costume is now a prison uniform. So what makes Theranos different from every other episode we've done? One thing, and it matters. FTX took money. Madoff took money. Terra took money. Nikola took money. Theranos took money and played with people's health. When the lie is a number on a screen, the damage is savings. When the lie is a blood test, the damage is a mother who's told she's miscarrying when she isn't. A patient whose real illness hides behind a fake normal. Some frauds steal your future. This one gambled with whether you'd have one. The lessons then. First, extraordinary claims need extraordinary evidence, and secrecy is not evidence. Theranos never published data because there was no data. Whenever someone says the proof is confidential, translate it. The proof is missing. Second, judge the board, not the badges. Generals and diplomats can't tell you if a blood test works. When a company's guardians are chosen for fame instead of expertise, they're decoration. Decoration doesn't ask questions. And third, the one this whole series keeps shouting, the costume is the con. The turtleneck, the deep voice, the dropout story, the hero's journey. Elizabeth didn't just imitate her hero's wardrobe, she imitated the shape of a genius, because she knew Silicon Valley funds the shape first and checks the substance later. Fake it till you make it is charming when it's software. It's a crime scene when it's blood. The scam never changes. This time it wore the most famous costume of all, and it printed its lies not on bank statements, but on lab reports. If you want more true stories like this, drawn badly on purpose and explained simply on purpose, subscribe. Next time, the energy giant that hid billions in debt inside imaginary companies, some of them literally named after Star Wars characters.